right, this week I'm joined by Ethan Rheault. Ethan has a video production company called ERO Productions. We had a great podcast. He talked a lot about where he came from, how he got into video production, some of the things that he's doing for small businesses, some of the passion projects that he's working on. Really interesting guy, big focus on storytelling. We also talk about paintball, the role that had in his childhood to where it is now. It's something he actually enjoys as a hobby, but he's been able to make it part of his work life as well. He does some filming for the Major League of Paintball, and there's a lot more to it than you'd think. And I didn't realize it until I got to know Ethan, and it's been really cool to pay attention and follow nowadays. So I think you'll really enjoy that part of the podcast as well. So this is the Randy Forster podcast. If you can do me a favor, subscribe on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. That would be great. Share with a friend. Either way, I appreciate you listening. Thanks so much for the support. Here's Ethan. All right, Ethan, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely.
So you're in video production, and we met not that long ago and talking about the idea of storytelling and what it is that you do. And I saw these parallels in what I'm doing on the podcast with what you do. I was like, you should just come on the podcast and we can chat and learn a little bit about what you do. So why don't we start with your background, man? Where you're from, all that stuff.
Yeah. I grew up in the Springfield, Mass area, the Pioneer Valley. Big old family, definitely Irish mother, 5 siblings, so a lot of us there. Very sports-oriented family, all very intensely baseball related.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, pretty standard upbringing for the most part. Everything was shared, so I'm definitely a very generous person when it comes to my things and my spaces. But yeah, the Springfield area was great for me for a little while, but coming to Maine was kind of like the next phase of my life, like, looking for our new opportunities, new education, which is really kind of why I ended up getting into the video production, because I knew where I was really wasn't the best space for me. So I needed to kind of get a clean slate and get educated.
So education was in Maine.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, this place.
What did that look like?
Yeah, it was interesting because there was a couple of places I was looking at. There was an art institute in Portland, which I was really curious about. But like the year, like in the months leading to when I moved here, it actually shut down, which was kind of a surprise and a little bit of a bummer too. But I continued to look, and then I found Maine Media, which is this place in Rockport, Maine. And it was like probably the best education I could have ever asked for. I was a terrible, terrible student, but when it came to this place, I was the best student. You
Really?
You couldn't shut me down. It was kind of void of any distractions, very intimate type of education. No fluff, no like added courses that were needed. It was all really centrally based on the education itself, which is incredibly stimulating, which is what I needed too. I think standard education was just a snooze for me, and I couldn't focus, and it was not something I can keep up with.
So what does Maine Media look like then? Is it something where you're there? Is this like a year-long program? Is it a less than that program, more than that? Like, how's that part work?
Yeah, it's super unique because it was started by, I'm pretty sure it was like a fellow. He was a photographer, some friends, and he just wanted to have like this school, this education that they set up. And then it began to grow and grow, and they added a film department. And so it's really just a small little campus. It doesn't feel like a school by any means, but the educators are really what makes it so special, because you're working with people who are in the industry, are passionate about it, and they just want to bring that education to you. So it's very quaint, quiet little place. When I say intimate, I really mean that. Like the groups and classes are maybe no more than 15, 20 people, but they have equipment. They've got a sound stage. They've got, the industry leading tools that you'll need. But really, it's just very immersive. And it was just the best thing I needed. I needed that.
That's awesome.
Full immersion. Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to take 1 second from the podcast to let you know that besides hosting, I also do mortgages. I'm a residential loan officer with Norcom Mortgage in Saco, Maine. If you or anyone you know is thinking about buying a home in 2024 or refinancing as rates are coming down, please feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to help. My contact information is in the description below. Thanks, and back to the pod. So when you're in this school, are you still trying to figure out what aspect of this business you want to be in? Is it like, obviously starting your own business is on the table in video production, but are you like, do you want to be in the movie industry? Do you want to work for a news station? Like, how does that part evolve?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it took me a while to figure out like that path, because I was dabbling in a lot of different types of art forms. I was doing graphic design for a little while, and that kind of, it became soul sucking. I lost my love of art for a minute there. Yeah. Just because I feel like it became too much of a job, and I think for a very long time, I was very precious about my art. I didn't want to share it. I didn't want anyone to see it. It was just like a self-expression. And in doing that, it was like an uncomfortable experience to where I would make something then need to be revisions. And then it became wonky and unsatisfying to me. So once I kind of like walked out of that, movies and storytelling was something that like I always knew that I was like in love with it, but it was just not really on the forefront of my mind. And so when I went to school, it was very much what you just said, like kind of figuring out what aspect of it I wanted to get into, because the course I took was a 101 in filmmaking. It was a very intensive, like 12-hour days each day. Yeah, very intense education. But because of that, I definitely settled into where I want to tell stories. I want to write. I want to create tales. I want to move people. And the easiest way I could get right into that was to start a video production company, get behind the camera. That was, technically speaking, that was something I really took to in school. So that was kind of like the easiest avenue to put it to practice, really.
Yep. And it's nice probably having that graphic design background too, when it comes to like the computer aspect of things. That's just one thing to have like the eye for the shot and using a camera, but I'm sure there's plenty of work that's done on a computer at that point.
100%. Yeah. And like, I mean, in a standard video, oftentimes you need to build certain types of animations, right? Like lower thirds, name cards, maybe logos. So that skill set really helped. It just next leveled anything I was making, where it was a dry cut. Now I had a little bit more fluff, a little bit more interest, a little bit more pizzazz, I guess.
So you moved to Wells after this, or was there something in between? Because you live in Wells, at the very least. Yeah, my wife and I, we came here kind of in a similar way. Like we both needed to get out of that Western Mass area. When I met her, she was in school in Denver at Johnson & Wales. So she had come back here. Then we ran into each other, and she hit me at like the perfect place where I was wanting to get the heck out of there. And Maine was kind of like the first step. It was never really supposed to even be like the place that we made a home, but we fell in love with it. It was a place that I had always vacationed at, very familiar. The ocean was a draw. The mountains aren't far away, so we kind of had a little bit of everything that piques our interest. So Wells was just like it was a landing spot because her father had a camper, and it was cheap for us to stay there. We went to Portland for about a year, and then we came back and bought the house. Yeah, awesome. So, and then you started ERO Productions.
Yeah. So that kind of came about because I have a very dear friend in marketing, and he was so mad that I left the area, because he's like, we could take over Western Mass together, and we probably could, honestly. He's a monster in the field. But yeah, it was an easy way to apply my craft creatively and kind of to help other people too, because I think bringing storytelling aspects to small businesses was something I was really into. I thought I could fill a gap.
So that's what it was, though, at first, and still is to some degree, but it was trying to help small businesses tell their story, promote their businesses.
Yeah, 100%. I felt that through that work, I could build kind of a platform to where I could eventually fund my own personal projects, enter film festivals, build a portfolio, things that would be mutually beneficial. Yeah.
So how long has it been at ERO Productions now?
It's been 3 years now. Yeah. For sure. 3 years. And it's been a little wonky at times, just because art is my craft. The administrative side of the business was always a bit of a trick for me. So I'm still learning that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. So it's been mostly, though, the business pieces of things right now to fund other projects. Tell me about the creative process and the style that you do for those types of shoots that you do for businesses. Is everyone its own project? Is there a certain ERO production style that you bring to every single shoot, or how does that part work?
Yeah. I definitely think that for the types of clients that I'm working with, I'm bringing, or I'm at least attempting to bring, the highest quality of picture, sound quality, and production value as I can. I think what's interesting about where I'm at is that the majority of my probably competition is very kind of point and shoot, whereas I like to kind of build the set wherever I go. And it's tricky because it's very guerrilla. Like oftentimes I've never seen these locations before, so I'm coming in, I'm assessing the situation, and a lot of times they're very tight spaces too. So it's, adjusting lenses. But I think for my creative process, I understand what they need to accomplish, but I want to bring it to like another level. I want to, I guess what 10x is like a common thing people say, but I want to make it very high quality for a very just fair rate, I suppose. Yeah.
What types of ways are you marketing your business? Obviously we do some networking together, but is this like a word of mouth thing? Do you do like online type stuff? How does that part work?
Yeah, right now it's probably mostly through word of mouth, definitely. Mm-hmm. People, I'm really just looking to do a good job and let that kind of blossom itself. I will be looking into pursuing a little bit more marketing and pushing myself out there. I'm building Google profiles. This, again, goes back to me just being an artist.
Administrative side of things?
Like, yeah, the artist
stuff is the stuff that gets put aside. But
For sure. Yeah, I try to give just a like a healthy creative experience to each client, and I think that's done well in and of itself. But I'm definitely at another stage where I'm like molting. I'm ready to break out of that shell and kind of grow into the next phase.
so are a lot of the videos that you do for social media specifically, or are they for websites or for commercials? How's that part work?
Yeah, well, it's interesting now just because everything can be applied everywhere now.
Yeah.
So it's really just a simple like adjustment in the render, and it can go to anywhere it needs to go. So a lot of stuff is usually living on the social media platforms in one way or
Yeah.
another. Facebook's a big one. It also depends on like where the audience lies. Are they predominantly on Instagram or TikTok, those kind of things, and I'll shoot vertically. But a lot of it can be it can be applied anywhere. Like I've done work that's been for social media and they needed to bring it to Hulu. So again, it's just a quick render switch and now it's been platformed and now it can go to wherever it needs to go. So it's really anywhere it needs to be.
So bring it to Hulu. That means like just a traditional commercial that would show up in one of the breaks when you're watching something on Hulu.
100%. Yeah. Usually a 30-second to 60-second ad space, and you can fill that gap with it. And it goes the same thing with TV commercials too. They all kind of homogenize in the same type of rendering.
That's pretty interesting. So, have you done a lot of commercials, or just like a handful of commercials, or is it something that you'd look to do more of?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like TV's dead. So I
Yeah.
don't think that's
So
something
it's
I'm
not
like,
even like a thing you're trying to do. I don't
not
disagree with you,
necessarily.
though. I don't
Yeah,
disagree with you.
I just don't think the value's there. I just think there's you when you go to social media, you can target the audience specifically and put your ad, your marketing directly into the palm of their hands. With
Yeah.
TV, other traditional mediums, you're just kind of throwing it out there, and it might hit a certain percentage of the people you're trying to reach. So maybe you're
Well,
flicking through networks, but
I'd imagine that Hulu maybe or something like that is different.
yeah,
With
I wouldn't even classify Hulu as like
as
TV, I
TV.
guess.
It's funny, I
Yeah,
think of it as a TV because I would watch Hulu on a TV, so like I put
for
it in
sure.
that same box, but it really is different. Like this,
Well, yeah,
the Spectrum type stuff, the channel 6, 8, 13, all that, all those broadcast type channels where there's commercials on. Yeah, I haven't watched a commercial since, I mean, maybe the Super Bowl, and that's pretty much it. And that's just
yeah.
going to be part of the conversation. But yeah,
What's that?
things like Hulu and I think Amazon Prime, any other of those services that have like a tier that you get an advertisement, they get you nailed right down. They know your likes, they know your age, they know how much money you
100%.
make, and it's probably
Absolutely.
feeding it to the right person. So in that sense, you do need to be able to shoot a traditional commercial, but it just gets applied there as opposed to TV. Or
Yeah,
like,
I mean, everything I shoot, I want it to be like, I really don't want to shoot anything that's just very like point and shoot. I want everything to be of the highest quality. So I want it to be able to be applied anywhere. I want it to be kind of timeless in a sense. And I think if I'm making something, I'm hoping that I'm like capturing their message into something that's, going to do the business benefit wherever it goes.
yeah. Now, what are some of the personal projects that you want to work on? That's interesting to me to think that you want to do all these other things, but eventually enter film festivals. Is that the goal? A film in a film festival? Are there other personal projects that you have?
Yeah, I think leading into like those narrative and film festival type programs or projects, I would like to get connected with a company that has interest in kind of growing their image itself. So just for example, like let's say maybe like a snowboarding company, I would love to be able to help them capture like the essence of what that means, because I get really romantic about things, and I would love to help facilitate a brand image that captures audiences, make them excited about the brand, makes them excited about the equipment, and makes them want to kind of live that brand lifestyle. I think back to like when skateboarding and snowboarding first started, the clothing that was similarly based was like a part of the culture. Like the clothing
Yeah.
was involved in that. And so
Yeah.
I think getting involved in a company that is more than just a product, but more of a brand and a lifestyle, that gets me excited because I can help tell stories and I can make
So that's like a
emotion.
best case job, though, but not like you're right. Like
Yeah,
something
yeah,
you do
yeah. I
more
mean,
fun.
yeah, that would be. I would have a
Like
blast working
the
on something like that.
film thing is like a personal, like that's a pet project of yours. Like the idea
Yeah,
of doing a film.
yeah, for sure. I think in that regard, it would probably start with shorts, something like
Mhm.
maybe at max like 20 minutes, something
Mhm.
really small. But it'd be like each project would be like a love letter to like film and my personal experiences.
Yeah.
I love the ability to convey a message without using any words. Using the camera, motivating it, the lighting, color has such a huge effect. I mean,
Yeah.
everything Communication is woven into like the fabric of our society, right? I mean, you go to the grocery store, you see packaging, it'll be like a paperback looking packaging. It's like, oh, that looks organic because, they're trying to communicate
Because it's
that.
Browns, yeah.
Yeah,
Everything
because it's
has
brown.
reason.
Yeah, right.
They're trying to send some type of message. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's really interesting to hear. 20 minutes is probably 20 minutes of a film is probably still a lot of work. Right.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, my school project, my like final piece it wound up being 5 minutes. We shot for 12 hours, and it was like we could have shot longer if I needed to. It's just wild, but yeah, it's actually quite insane how much you need to capture.
That's so funny. I think a couple episodes ago I had a friend of mine, his name's Jeff, and he was in a Taylor Swift video. Right. And this was back in 2007 or 2008. They filmed one in Kennebunk, downtown Kennebunk. She was just a kid back then, and he was too. But he said he was there for 4 hours to film for like 1 second of screen time, and like what the whole scene was in the music video. Like it was this big wedding scene, and they were there all day, the whole weekend. The crew was there, and he was there specifically for 4 hours. But like the wedding part of the video was like freaking so short, and his spot was like 1 second. And it's just like, yeah, man, you just get as much footage. And I guess then once you start doing the storytelling part of things, you cut probably 99% of it.
Quite a bit of it. Yeah, they call it killing your baby. Don't be afraid to kill your baby. So it's the shots that are really special to you, but if they don't move the narrative or the story forward, it's gotta be on the cutting room floor. So they definitely shoot for coverage, and they shoot more than they probably want to. And then I mean, that's movie magic to me, though. I love that kind of grueling process where you're kind of purging your soul a little bit, and what's left is like this really refined and kind of chiseled piece. And hopefully, it's something that reflects what you're trying to do.
Killing the baby. I'm gonna work that into my normal day-to-day speech.
Yeah,
That's killing the baby.
No doubt.
Ethan told me about that one. How could you see your business evolving besides the business stuff and like that brand stuff, which actually sounds freaking awesome? That would be best case scenario. You would crush that. But is there a desire to do weddings, which is a totally different thing, or nonprofit type stuff, or I don't know, like, or is this kind of the lane that you'll probably be in for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, no, it's ERO Productions, not films, for a reason, because I feel that I have ambition to create in more than one way. I love fashion. I love music. I love all forms of art. So productions would be like kind of all encompassing, and it's something I want to subtly work my way into, and also funding other people's projects too. It's a grotesque industry, like the Hollywood industry. It's a lot of great projects get cast aside due to formulaic opportunities, right? Marvel came out, so everybody wanted to make their next, cinematic universe. So I think I do worry about the medium kind of being pushed aside for, the almighty dollar. So I would hope to one day be able to fund other people's projects and help work and produce other people's art forms as well.
That's awesome. One of the things that is a big part of your life, and I was looking forward to bringing up this part in particular, is the world of paintball. And you've been filming, what is the World Paintball Championship?
Yeah, Major League of Paintball.
Major League of Paintball.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing that for?
So honestly, just one season. Last year, I got right into it, and
I feel like you made a few trips and done a few things, or was it just that one trip?
No, there's 5 major events in a season. So I made 5 trips last season. Paintball has been something that's been in my life for many, many years. I mean, I started when I was maybe 11 or 12. I'm going to be 34 soon. So it's funny. Mike Hinman, he's like one of the big personalities in paintball. He says, nobody ever leaves paintball or quits. You just take long breaks. And that was definitely me. I took a break, and I've come back into it. And it's something I've become so fixated with that merging my two interests of film and paintball was like just the healthiest way I can bring them together without shutting my life down. But yeah, the paintball itself is a game that was thriving in like early 2008. They had a lot of money and loans out to the banks. Recession happened. The banks didn't want to facilitate those loans anymore, so we lost a lot of companies. We lost a lot of ground. But now it's in that same kind of energy where it's growing, it's thriving. We're starting to bring technology, and we're tracking statistics, which has been a very tricky thing in the game. But it's becoming a sport, and I'm in a really good place, I think, within the game, to where I can almost see the need for like a paintball ESPN or some type of conversation that needs to continuate, because other sports have that 24/7 coverage. I would really like to be a part of bringing that to paintball.
Well, it sounds like you have a foot in the door with the coverage that you do right now.
For sure, yeah.
It seems like things are on the upswing. When it comes to paintball in particular, you said, like, I played paintball when I was 11, 12. What does that look like back then versus what it is now? Because paintball seems very general to me, but maybe there really is only like one way to play paintball, and I'm just not understanding it.
Yeah, no, there's multiple formats. Everybody has kind of their I started paintball story. A lot of it's birthday parties, getting together. But for me, it was my older brother Matt, who was basically like my second father.
Yeah,
There would be no paintball in my life without my brother Matt. So big shout out
awesome.
Matt.
How old's he?
Oh shit, I got so many siblings. I think he just turned 30. He might be 40 at the end of this year. He might be 40
But
in
it's
November.
not like he's like the way older
No,
brother to the very youngest brother. Like these, reasonable
Yeah, yeah.
5, 6,
Yeah,
7, 8 years
Yeah,
between you
within a
guys.
few years of each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably dating him too much. He's probably like 38, I think. But anyways,
That's
he
awesome.
got me into it, and we started in my grandma's backyard. Magazines were still a legitimate thing, and that's how you stayed tied into the game, was through magazines. And so we'd see pictures, and we'd make our own bunkers and our own obstacles. But paintball now has become more of, the way I see it at least, is more of the competitive sport side of things. You've probably seen the air bunkers. It's a set field now.
Air bunkers are like these big,
the blow up bunkers. Yeah, they look like balloons. But yeah, those are the bunkers that we use. And some of these bunkers have been around since the beginning, and so we've got nicknames for them, like the Aztecs and the Towers and the Snake and the Doritos, which is kind of a funny thing that just kind of took on. But there's other formats too. They go by like kind of personnel. So there's 10-man. Usually 10-man's a bigger field. Usually it's more of a classic type of paintball, so they're mechanical guns as opposed to electric.
Yep.
So it's a little bit slower paced. The most popular format now is the NXL. That's the Major League of Paintball. That's the athletic, timed clock, playing for points, competitively,
so is this
winning money.
2 teams coming at each other, and like you're out if you get shot, or you get a point if you shoot somebody, and then it's just like a culmination of points?
Yeah, eliminations aren't actually even necessary to confirm a point. There's buzzers on opposite ends. So you'll start off 5-on-5. Eliminations obviously help you to get to the other side to confirm the point. But once that point's done, you reset. So it's a time clock of 15 minutes. That's as many points as you can score. Or we have a mercy rule of 7 right now. So you can mercy teams as well. But it's a grueling weekend, honestly. Paintball takes place from game start on Friday. Sunday, you got to make Sunday just like golf. But you've only got 4 matches. And a lot of times,
so there's an elimination thing between Friday and it's like
absolutely
a qualifying type thing.
100%. Yeah, and these tournaments are really, really difficult. Especially, from division to division. Like there's pro, there's semi-pro, division 2, 3, 4. But it's tough because you can win, you can go 2-2, and then it comes down to margins, and that happens quite a bit. And so you can do really well, but one game may have swayed your whole weekend and knocked you out.
So I think when we first met, by chance, you brought this idea of, what's the one that happens in Orlando? Is this like the big one down in Orlando?
The World Cup. Yeah, November.
The World Cup. So anyways, we start talking, and you bring up the World Cup because you went down there to shoot for it. And I think I had just gone to Disney World, not this past November, but the November before. And surrounded by us on the plane was a bunch of guys ready to go down to the World Cup of paintball, and we were talking to them. They were good dudes, and it was a fun conversation. But we left that kind of walking away. Didn't really think twice about it until we're driving through Disney, and you could see the bunkers that you were talking about, and this freaking field, and there was people everywhere. It was insane. So then I think we meet up like a week later, 2 weeks later, and like kind of connected the dots on the fact that like that's what you were talking about. But it was like a big production. It wasn't like, oh hey, side field with a dozen cars. I mean, this is, people were flying from all over the world and country to Orlando for this huge event.
Yeah, so, that's our biggest event of the year easily. Hundreds and hundreds of teams. We have a European league, and so the four best teams from Europe, they get invited to come play for the World Cup. It's awesome. It really is becoming a global thing, which is cool, because World Cup kind of sounded silly back in the day because it was really just a bunch of American teams playing, but now it's kind of expanded to other leagues, which is really cool.
So what are you doing when you're filming those events?
Getting shot to hell, first off.
You're just on the course or whatever, the field, and you're in the middle of the action. You're covered from head to toe. You got your camera, and you're just taking shots.
Yeah. I'm trying. So there's usually like a checklist of things I want to capture, right? Like getting shot in the face, that's a great shot. I want to get that. Breakout, which is when the buzzer rings and the guys can pull off the box and they start shooting. The game starts. Yeah. Those are usually exciting. Diving are usually very high intense shots. So diving into the snake position, which is a lay down position. So those long runs, that's usually like a risky type of ground to take, because it's there's usually you're
out in the open.
Out in the open, and high probability you're gonna get shot. But if you can get to that position, you're probably gonna go down and shoot a lot of people. So we're catching that, and I like the longer the later in the year of last year, I was becoming more interested in inside the pits when the guys were talking in between the points, sharing what was going on in the field. What are they seeing? You know, maybe losing their cool a little bit, maybe getting a little bit emotional. That became far more interesting to me because I really like that human element, and it's really what ties into like what I do with ERO Productions. I love shooting people. I think they're just fascinating. I think stories can be told in many ways, and paintball's got a ton of stories. And there's this documentary that's like a really famous documentary in paintball. It's called Hero for a Day, the excessive story. It just detailed this team and their journey to knock off the best team, and they really built a team just to beat them. And there's this notion that you really can be a hero for a day, and that really holds true in paintball. That you go back to your normal life, and it's all meaningless. Nobody knows what the heck's going on, but for your friends on that day, you could have done something really special and been the absolute man or woman too. We have a women's pro league now too. So.
That's so cool. Are you the only shooter in this scenario, or are there multiple shooters?
Multiple, yeah. So the league itself will have a team of people. I was shooting for one of the platinum sponsors, Pro DNA. So they've got jerseys, soft goods, all different types of products. So I was capturing content for them. I made event videos for them, social media profile stuff. And then a lot of it, like in between those games where their teams weren't playing because they have sponsored teams, that's when I would capture a lot of my own personal stuff. So that was the trade-off, really. I was trading, I'll shoot this stuff for you, but I want to be able to kind of capture my own stuff as well and do some storytelling.
You've shared some cool videos in the past with me, so I'll be sure to share those as well, just to kind of get a sense of what they're like. They're awesome. They're fun to watch, and probably fun to make. I feel like I've seen some pictures of you covered in paint yourself, and it looks like a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast, man. It really is something that like it's in my core, and I've made some of the best friends I could ever ask for too. And it has a similarity to like other sports. Like I bring up skateboarding and snowboarding because they were the shitheads, I guess. To put it bluntly, nobody wanted the snowboarders on the mountain. Skateboarders were a nuisance. Paintballers were that very same thing. We were a nuisance. Hotels didn't want us in their places because they were destroying hotels. It's calmed down, thankfully, and it's become a little bit more professional, which is great. But there's just a ruffian kind of nature to it. And for someone like myself, who is usually very calm and collected, it's a great way to just get a lot of aggression out. And I become something different when I'm on the field. I'm kind of
now we're talking about you actually playing.
Yeah, which I do too. So yeah,
you've been playing more. I know you were in like a big tournament not that long ago. Like, how's that been?
I absolutely love it. I always felt there's just like this childhood dream of wanting to go pro, right? And like pro, it can mean a number of different things. Because for the longest time, nobody's getting paid. You just were playing at the top level. Now guys are starting to get paid. So I always felt like if I continued throughout paintball, I could have gone pro, right? Like it's a combat sport, so I have to be cocky. And if you're not cocky, if you don't have an ego, you shouldn't even be on the field. But it's been great to get back and play on the field again because I've reconnected with a lot of those friends. And I'm getting like a little bit of recognition within my community. And it's not like, humbly speaking, it's just nice to be recognized as a decent player. And I've been getting into it to where I can have that healthier relationship with it, where I don't have to spend all my money into it. So it's just been good to reacclimate into that athletic expression because I absolutely needed that. And it's been something I've kind of missing from my life for a little while. But getting back into it just feels good. I don't even know how to really put it. It's a soulful connection.
I bet. I mean, we all need outlets like that. For some people, it's golf. For some people, it's pickleball or whatever. Whatever thing that you're into is tabletop gaming or whatever. Like it's nice to have something you're passionate about, and it's good that you're moving around too. Did you come in second place in the tournament you were telling me, Bo?
Yeah. So it was called the Duel. So the games, Michael Jordan, Oliver Lang. That's our GOAT. He left the game himself. He's come back and he's really doing a lot of really great things for the community. But he put on this tournament, and it's a new format. Normally it's 5-on-5, like I was saying. This was 1-on-1, and I entered it. I hadn't played in like probably a couple of years, and I entered it just like looking to have a good time. So they went around the country regionally. Mine was in the Northeast. I played in Boston. I ended up doing really, really well, and I went all the way to the finals. My buddy took me down in overtime. It was a very, very tight game. But yeah, I performed really well. And so technically in the Northeast, I'm like the number 2 ranked gunfighter in the Northeast, which is a pretty cool title.
Are you going to go to the next level? Or like, it sounds like they're still working their way through those regional.
They
at some point they'll have the final between all of the top few from each place.
Exactly. Which they did already. It was a little sore because the guy who beat me won the whole thing.
Oh my God.
So he went to California. He played for $10,000. Yeah, it was a $10,000 tournament. He won. Tommy Greenleaf, I'm going to give him a shout out. He's a baller for sure. He played really well, but that tournament circuit performed really well. So now they're doing a European circuit and then they're going to bring it back. But that's really what made me want to play paintball again, was that Oliver Lang, our goat there, he told me to put the camera down and start playing again. So
that's awesome. That's cool that you have a relationship with that guy, a guy that's, anytime you're the goat of anything in the whole entire, you know, like to be the best at any one thing,
for sure,
it's pretty cool, you know, to have that relationship.
I mean, like I spent my childhood watching videos of this guy play paintball and just do insane things, and so I was able to kind of chat with him, and he's a down to earth human being, just what you'd hope, and he gave me a really cool opportunity to get connected. I mean, my brother, I was saying, who took care of me through paintball, he came, he was helping me out in the pits, and it just was honestly, like, at the end of the day, it was like an emotional purge. Like I was crying a little bit. I was really emotional about getting reinvested in that game, and it was awesome to have my brother there. My wife was there, so she got to kind of see what paintball was about, because when we met each other, paintball wasn't really in my life at the time. So it was just a really incredible kind of bonding and powerful experience for me.
That's super cool. I'll share some vids, man. Thanks for sharing the paintball stuff. It's a fascinating thing for me, just from my limited experience of messing around with it when I was younger and seeing the stuff and having talked about it over the past year or so. It's cool to hear more about. So I'll be sure to share that. To pivot back to the video production stuff, what's the one piece of advice that you give to anyone that's thinking about doing this as their long-term career? Do you have anything that you tell people?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably like the standard advice among everybody in the industry, and it's just shoot as much as possible and just create, because it's the failures that really blossom you into the next version of yourself, and learning why you failed. So just shooting as much as possible, being creative, not being a perfectionist about things, which everybody can be accused of, especially myself. I'm definitely neurotic about each project. I mean, I'm heavily critical, but creating is the best thing you can do. We have so much technology at our hands now. You can do anything with your phone. You can do any camera is accessible to you. You don't no longer need to spend a bunch of money on film stocks and expensive equipment. I mean, the technology is really beneficial for the young creators now. So just create, just shoot, be creative, do anything you have to.
Love it. Where's the best way to find your videos online?
Yeah, my website is probably the best way. So it's ERO Productions.us. I would say Facebook, but I got hacked, so that might be confusing. So there's a couple of Facebooks. I gotta weed that out. But
is YouTube a thing?
I'm getting into it. My paintball stuff is on there. So it's Paintball Entertainment is where I'm at, and you can find me on Instagram on that. You can find me on YouTube. I just opened a Facebook on that. So a lot of my paintball content is there, and there's some cool stuff in there. I follow the Division 2 team, so there's some narrative projects in there. Definitely some of my more creative stuff came out of getting connected with paintball again. So Paintball Entertainment for sure, and then EROProductions.com or .us. Sorry.
Love it, dude. I'll make sure I share that stuff. So thank you for coming on and chatting, man. Loved hearing all the stories. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to share. It's nice to talk. Nice to chat.
Dude. All right, brother. We'll do it again. All right. Have a good one.